They don't want it, but contractors are preparing for a possible lapse in appropriations at the end of the month. A government shutdown, that is. Even if they agree on numbers, members of Congress don't agree on the policy riders each party wants on a spending bill. So what to do to help your company through it? We check in with federal sales and marketing consultant Larry Allen. And here we go again, I guess. Shutdown fever is hitting Washington with a couple weeks to go. What's your take?
My take on it is that we aren't really going to know if there's a shutdown right up until the last minute. I don't think we're going to have a shutdown as we are doing this show right now. But as you mentioned, we've got a couple of weeks left, and there's still many variables out there. There really isn't too much of a difference in terms of the actual spending amounts. It's just really on the spending side a question of how long you want a continuing resolution to go. Do you want one to take you just past the election, or do you want one to take you well into the calendar year? And that's a big question. But the policy writers, whether they're talking about voter ID or more aid for Ukraine or other things that you really need to build some solid coalitions around. That's where the delays are going to come up.
All right. And let's talk the worst case scenario, that there is a lapse. What do you tell your clients, contractors, to do if that happens?
Well, I think the best thing to do, even though it's difficult right now because of where we are in the fiscal year, is you've got to have those discussions with your federal customers, and particularly for contracts that you already have, where you're delivering things. There are going to be deliveries that come maybe in early October, or you've got people who are co-located on federal sites. Those are issues that you want to get squared away. You probably know by now, because we've been through it so much, Tom, that those federal workers those contractor workers who work on federal sites aren't going to be able to do that. You do want to figure out how you can get paid. And that's kind of a key issue, and whether you're going to get paid so that you can at least plan for your business. I think you also need to keep an eye on how long this could last if we have one. This is an election year. It's a close election year. So there's really no telling just how much of an impact election year politics could have if we do face a shutdown.
And let's talk about the idea of a CR, because that requires a different strategy on behalf of suppliers, contractors.
Right. So I think traditionally, Tom, the House and Senate pass a shorter medium-term CR. Say traditionally, that's what passes for recent tradition anyway. So, if they follow the traditional route, you could expect to see a CR till maybe mid-November or the beginning of December. But there is a faction in the House that has already proposed setting a CR in place until the end of March. Whether we get a CR now that goes all the way to the end of March or end up operating under a CR for that long, we are going to have the year start under a continuing resolution, which means no new project starts. It's going to be a day-to-day battle. Unfortunately, if we have one that goes until the end of March, it's going to look a lot like fiscal year 2024 in terms of the pace of government business and how up and down things are depending on the sources of money and what your individual customer agency has.
We're speaking with Larry Allen. He's president of Allen Federal Business Partners. Yeah, so really then any new initiative under a CR that goes to March is going to be effectively not happen, because if you can't launch it till next year sometime, you're back again toward the end of the next fiscal.
That's exactly right. And even for things that may have a high political priority, if they're reliant, Tom, on appropriated funds, they're just not going to happen until those final, quote unquote, final appropriations get passed. It's really too early to tell. If you look at the way the tea leaves are going right now, you would say, well, we're probably going to have a shorter term CR that is stripped of all the policy writers, that takes us to the middle of November or the beginning of December. The real question, I think, that has yet to be answered on that scenario is whether we'll have a short-term shutdown before we get a short-term CR.
And anyway, there's always the Inflation Reduction Act. You can use that to buy anything.
Right. And agencies do. So.
And they do, yes, to the tune of billions. On another topic, you have pointed out that AI can be useful, but maybe not the best tool to generate your responses to those solicitations that do come through.
Yeah, Tom, this is something that's interesting. Of course, industry and the federal government have been talking a lot about AI use in different government solutions, but here we're talking about how AI can and cannot be used in the acquisition process itself. And recently I've had the opportunity to sit in on a couple of conferences and speak with a number of colleagues, some who have a very good idea about current AI capabilities. And the takeaway that I've gotten from those discussions is that while AI can be a valuable tool, the state of AI in acquisition is not to the point yet where it's a set it and forget it type of situation. It's not a substitute now, and ideally, I think, would never be a substitute for contracting officers' own learned decisions. But you need to understand right now that the technology isn't there to do it for you, that there's still a human element that very much is needed. So whether you're a contractor relying on something like ChatGPT or to put together your solicitation response, or whether you're a contracting officer, contract specialist that's relying on AI to make a business decision for you, you have to understand it's only a partial solution, and that your own intelligence, your own experience, all still need to be used in this process.
And anyway, if you write something with AI, it's going to need a lot of editing, and you'll have to go through it line by line to make sure it's really what you hoped it would say. And it might end up not saving you any time anyway in creating a bid.
Well, that's exactly right. In fact, one of the AI experts I was speaking with last week made the analogy that even a certain amount of background noise can change a AI response from what it's supposed to be to something wildly different. And when you think about how much background noise you have in an office environment, or even if you're working out of your home office sometimes, the yard crew outside, the kids are home from school, what have you, that can really change what you're intending to say, and really speaks to the fact that you need to carefully review what it is you're writing, and you can't over-rely on tools. This is my frequent rejoinder about tools, and that is tools are great in the hands of people who know how to use them, but they're ultimately not going to do the entire job for you.
Right. We all know what a hammer can do to the thumb if misapplied.
Right.
Larry Allen is president of Allen Federal Business Partners. Thanks so much.
Tom, thank you, and I wish your listeners happy selling.
We'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Hear the Federal Drive on demand. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.